Trump's record was at the heart of their last debates, even as he sought to deflect.
If he gets in, you will have a depression the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
While those warnings didn't come to pass, Biden's record is now under the microscope, complicating his effort to make it a referendum on Trump.
The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
And America's oldest presidential candidates are even older. Trump 78, Biden 81. With age and fitness for office now a central issue in the race.
It has to be inflation, right?
Public opinion for presidents can be punishing. Biden's favorability has fallen 11 points since 2020, with nearly 6 in 10 Americans holding an unfavorable view. Perceptions of Trump have changed less, with more than half still seeing televised debates have long been a storied part of presidential campaigns, with history-making moments for candidates.
There you go again.
Yet this showdown is without parallel. The nation's 45th and 46th presidents, still seeking to define one another in the earliest general election debate in memory, an old duel being fought on new ground.
Here we go. 1 minute. Are they walking out in 1 minute? Yeah.
So 47 seconds.
What do you think about the no audience element?
That's good for Biden.
I think so
And
too.
the mic cutting off. They're cutting off the mics
Yeah,
when
I
it's
saw
not their
that.
turn to speak. That's
Yeah.
also really good for Biden.
I think shake hands. I think the irony is
I
that
doubt they'll shake hands. I don't see that happening. We kind of look Mormon on the camera right now, dude.
Mormon. We look like we're about to talk to you about Jesus right now, the Latter-day Saints.
We just went door to door all day.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh my god, dude. I can't believe we're like memeing about this. Who's gonna like be the most powerful person in the world?
Right.
It sucks that there's not even a halfway decent choice.
I mean, there isn't, but
We're live from Georgia,
As a
key
person,
battleground
Biden sucks,
state in
right?
the race
But
for the White
I think
House.
that he has
In
done
just
a lot of good
moments, the
policies.
current U.S. president
Person
will
sucks,
debate
I'm
the
gonna say
former
opposite.
U.S.
Person
president
sucks.
as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United
Joe
States
Biden's
and around the world to our studios in Atlanta.
That's true.
This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol.
And
This
the
is a
Nico
pivotal
Variety Hour.
moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their
Joe
rematch
Biden's
for
gonna
the
do like some
nation's
Stevie
highest
Wonder or
office.
something.
Each
should
will
do No
make his
Sleep Till
case to the
Brooklyn.
American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each
I
candidate will
think the
get 2
fact
minutes
that they
for
made
closing
so many
statements.
concessions,
There is no studio
like of the
audience
rules
tonight.
and shit, and like there
Pre-written
being no
notes,
audience,
props, or
it kinda
contacts
makes
with
Trump look
campaign
good
staff
that
are
he
not
made so
permitted
many
during the debate.
concessions.
Yeah, it makes him look
By
good.
accepting our
it does.
invitation to debate both candidates and
It
their
could.
campaigns,
It could
we
make
He
him look.
kneecapped himself, bro. He's
It
got
could.
like a hand tied behind
Now,
his back.
please
right
welcome
It can easily
the 46th
backfire.
President
It
of
can
the United
definitely
States,
backfire.
Joe Biden.
now. Oh shit. Walking out to no music, no crowd. He made it to the podium.
He made it.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Great.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%.
Yes, dude.
What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. It'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together.
Yo,
again.
he came out
That's
aggressive as
exactly
fuck.
what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out in the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from a household where the kitchen table, the things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you have to take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. In a situation that we're going to make that available to everybody, all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess.
But only one of them is
He
allowed to
created
talk at a time.
mandates. That was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, the bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks that he has the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant in the military. You know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where we had a notion that we were this safe country. Truth is, I'm the only president this century.
It was never about groceries, Sam.
This decade, that done any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
War is such a bad thing to get Trump on.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minutes that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement, the only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9%
This
inflation.
guy, man.
He inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump's administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
Well, you have the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay
hidden trillionaires.
He's got a stutter, guys.
The game.
He's got a stutter, okay?
Either one of those numbers. They've raised $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure
Put him back in Home Alone.
Child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
He said if we finally beat
Well, he's right.
Medicare.
He did beat
He got
Medicare.
cut off.
He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on
I actually
Medicare.
do like
they're
this
putting them
format
on
more.
Social
They're not just
Security. They're
arguing
going to
back and
destroy
forth.
Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out
Yeah, let him
Social
know.
Security.
Let him know.
He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that
I
sentence.
trust you.
And
Yeah,
it's a
do whatever
shame.
you want.
What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened
He's
to
gotta
the
stutter,
United
guys.
States of America. We're no longer respected.
That's the only
They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
Oh.
This morning, the
go.
This
court
is where
ruled
Biden
on
wins.
yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions.
And
As
copy paste that
president,
and put it
would
into the
you
smaller
block
one, too,
abortion medication?
when you finish?
First of all, the Supreme Court just
So it
approved
goes
the
to all
abortion
of them.
bill. And I agree with their decision to have done
Oh.
that. And I will not block it.
For some reason,
And
the kick
if
chat,
you look at this
you have to
whole
type in,
question
yeah.
that you're asking, complex
Yeah,
but
just
not
paste it
really
and send the same
complex.
thing.
51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans,
I don't know if
liberals,
that's true.
conservatives.
What about like all the women that
Everybody
live in
wanted
those
it back.
states?
Religious leaders.
You said everybody wanted
And
to
what I
overturn
did
it?
is I
Yeah.
put 3 great Supreme
Said
Court
everybody wanted the
justices
states
on
to
the
decide.
court,
Everybody.
and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now,
That's
10
not
years
true.
ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, it was an end result that
They
was
should
a little
both be
bit
on
more
UFL
liberal than
music,
you
I
would have
think.
thought.
Yeah,
Kansas, I
with
would say the same
restream
thing.
is just
Texas
the
is
website I'm
different.
streaming
Florida is
from.
different.
That
But they're
streams
all
to
making
of
their
them.
own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue.
If
It's
Biden
been a
can't win
great
on this
thing.
point, he's never
Thank
going to
you.
win.
President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on
That's a good
what
one.
your circumstances are, whether you need
Gotta
help.
punch in.
The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a
Easy
different
little
rule.
punch in.
Okay,
But
that's a
for so many
own.
young women who have been,
It is kind of similar
including
to
a young
that.
woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The
Trump's
idea
gonna talk
that
about
she
people
was
wanting,
murdered
like,
by
late-term
an
abortions.
immigrant
That's what he's
coming
gonna say.
in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And then try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women
They do
murdered
try to arrest him when
by
they
the
cross
same
state
people
lines.
he
That's
allows
true.
to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted. including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it.
He's
Every
literally trying
legal
to, like,
scholar wanted it that way.
Get both.
Staying on the topic
Yeah.
of abortion,
It's like,
President
I
Biden,
overturned
7
it,
states.
so you can
I'll let you
keep
do
it
that.
however you want.
This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions.
Agreed.
That's how it should be run. That's
This
what
is-
you're going
this
to
is
do.
his
And if I'm
easiest
elected, I'm going to restore
Yeah,
point
Roe v.
against
Wade.
Trump.
Yeah,
This
people are
is the
gonna
one-
shit. People are
He
gonna
can
shit on him
take
because
the
he's
life of
old,
the
but
baby
he killed him
in
on
the
that
ninth
point.
This is the
month
one point
and
that,
even
that
after
saves
birth,
him.
because some states,
Saves
Democrat
him.
run, take it after birth. Again, the governor,
Yeah.
former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true.
There
Roe v.
are
Wade does not
situations
provide
where
for
if
that.
a mother's life
That's
is
not
in
the
danger,
circumstance.
the third
Only woman's
trimester.
life is in danger. She's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not.
It sounds like Trump is saying that should never happen.
I told you he was
The Roe
immediately
v.
going to be like,
Wade,
late
you
term
have
abortion is
late-term
horrible.
abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think
Trying to
that's a
make
good
it seem
thing.
like
We think it's a
motherfuckers the
radical
day before
thing.
the baby's
We think the
due are like,
Democrats are the
change our
radicals,
mind,
not the
get rid of this
Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he gonna
finally
do
looking
if
powerful. This is
if
his
the
moment, right here.
MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion.
They're
period,
probably
across the
snapping,
board,
bro.
At 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
That's
Let's
true.
turn now to the
He
issue
would
of immigration
sign
and border
it.
security.
tried to keep
President
talking.
Biden, a record
He tried
number
to
of
keep
migrants
talking.
have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases
immigrants is
causing
bad
real
for
safety
Biden.
and security concerns.
It can be neutral.
Given that, why should
But,
voters
yeah,
trust
it is-
you
it's not
to
a
solve
Right
that
now, people
crisis?
are not happy about
Because
it.
we worked very
Yeah.
hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a
That's a
situation
good
where
point.
when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated.
The
That's not
separation
the right way to
policy
go.
was pretty
What
wild.
I've done since I've changed
You
the
know,
law,
that's one of
what's happened.
like his
I
wife.
changed it in a way that
she
now
changed his mind
you're in
on
a
that.
situation where
Abortion?
there
No,
are
of
40%
the
fewer
of the
people coming across the
separation
border
at the
every
border
day
of
than
families.
when he left
Yeah,
office.
like
And I'm going to continue.
that is
to
a really
get
strong
total
point for
ban
Biden. I think the separation of
on
families.
The total
was fucked
initiative
up. What
relative
that's
to what we're going to do.
It's fucked up.
More border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the
honestly,
end of
the
that
best.
sentence. I don't
amazing.
think he knows what he said either. Look,
Yeah, appreciate you.
we had the safest border in the history of our country.
I know,
All he
I
had
know,
to do
I
was
know you're
leave
gonna
it.
do
All he had to do
fucking
was leave
anything
it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation.
What's crazy
Because I didn't have
he kept
legislation. I said close the
Trump's
border. We had the
policies
safest
going.
border in history.
That's
In
why I
the
came on the
final
border.
couple of months of
Pretty
my
much.
presidency, we had,
And
according
they
to
had a
Patrol,
border
who was
bill,
great,
but
and by
the
the way, who
Republicans
endorsed
wouldn't
me for
sign it.
president,
Yes.
but I won't say that.
Biden
They endorsed me for president. Brandon, just
undid
stick to him.
58
But
laws. He
look,
did
we
the
had the
most-
safest border in history. Now
did
we have the
most
worst border in
repeals
history.
of
There's never
any
been
fucking
anything like
president.
it.
That
And
is
people
true.
are dying
And
all
they were
over
all
the
And I
place,
think Trump's
including
is
the
the
people
most
that are
as well,
coming out
Nico.
in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump.
They've just been
President
escalating
Biden.
this.
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person, come in and his
What the
administration,
fuck
killed
is he
three
saying, bro?
American soldiers. Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there.
He's
I'm
not
not saying
looking
that
good,
no
man.
terrorists ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're
This guy
welcoming
runs
these
our
people.
country.
That's simply not true.
That
There's
was
no
bad.
data
That
to
was
support
rough.
what he
Love
said.
that
Once
so
again,
hard.
he's exaggerating, he's lying.
I'm gonna take him
I told
off.
you, abortion
President
was
Trump,
one thing
staying on the
he's got.
topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American
Do you
history,
think that they're
unquote.
going to can
Does that
Biden
mean
after
that you
this?
will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second, he said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything.
See our viewers.
He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including
Where's the show our viewers?
hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, and every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a
Joe
border.
Biden is ruining
And
the
because of
stop
his
speak.
ridiculous, insane,
That's crazy.
The
very
market
stupid
is telling us
policies,
that Trump
people
has
are
done
coming in
very
and they're
well so
killing
far.
our
So, I mean, you
citizens
can't argue
at a
with that.
level that we've never seen. We call it migrant
Can't argue with
crime.
the markets.
I call it
Look
Biden
at you.
migrant crime. They're killing our citizens
the
at a
show me
level that
viewers
we've
we have?
never seen
the
before.
bottom, the little
and
eye
you're
thing.
reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl.
I might buy
12
some
years
Gavin
old.
Newsom
This
shares
is
right now,
horrible
not gonna
what's
lie.
taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally
That's not probably not
an
the worst
uncivilized
Probably
country
not,
now.
right?
He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of
Joe
these
Biden's gonna
people
fall
out, and
over
we have to
right
get them
now.
out fast because they're going to destroy
Yeah, his
our
Adderall's
country.
wearing
Just
off,
take
bro.
a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all.
Is he
And
falling
he doesn't care
asleep?
about our veterans. Nobody been worse.
No, I don't think so.
I had the highest approval rating for
just
veterans taking care of
He's
the
been doing
VA.
that the whole time.
He
He's
has
just
the
looking
worst.
down.
He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved.
No.
Choice that I got through
I think
Congress.
that what
Where's
all
Robert?
the
what is
different
very
things I
interesting,
approved.
Nico,
Robert?
is that the
abandoned.
debates are the
We have by
earliest
far
they've
the
ever been
highest,
this
and now
year,
it's down
right?
to less
Of
than
any
half.
election
Yes,
year.
because he's done all
And
these great
what's
things that we
interesting is
did,
that the
and
first
I didn't
debate
get it
is
just
actually
because I
before the
approved it, which
convention.
is crazy.
So,
But he has killed
in
so many
theory,
people
it's
at our
very
border
possible
by
for one of these
all
people to
of
get
these
replaced.
people come in.
Or both
It's
of
a
them.
very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single
I don't think
thing
that's
he
going to
says is a
happen,
lie.
but it's possible.
Every single one. For example,
Yeah.
veterans are a
We
hell
are
of a lot
doing,
better
we are
off.
on unprecedented
That's
times.
the fact.
That's what I'm saying.
1
Shit
million
that never
of them now
happens
have
could
health
happen.
insurance, and
Maybe
their
he'll.
families
Yeah,
have
I
it.
mean,
Their families have it because what happened, whether it was
this is
Agent
a
Orange
sinker
or
though for Biden
burn
so
pits,
far.
they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq. Later went on
The
next
street
one of
for
those
the
burn
street?
pits. Came
Yeah, it's
back
on
with
CNN's
stage
YouTube
4
channel.
glioblastoma. I was recently in
What's Chad saying?
France
Chad been
for
cooking up?
D-Day.
You
And
get
I
shit on your
spoke
phone,
all
Nico.
about those
I know,
heroes
trying to
that
pull up
died.
that
I went
one.
to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
Okay, that was
First of
not
all, that
bad.
was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say, I'm at a
Biden had
cemetery
3
or
brain
I'm talking
surgeries.
about our veterans? Because nobody's taking
doctor
better
said he's
care. I'm
never
so
gonna
glad this
recover
came
from
up.
any of them.
And he brought
I'm
it up.
so glad this came
There's
up.
nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, Just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking,
Mike's
it's the
off.
same thing.
Yeah, but
51
you're a fellow,
intelligence agents said that
Hit him with
the
the you're a
laptop
fellow, bro.
was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son Hunter.
I hope they bring that
It
up.
wasn't
That'd be
Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it. Period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history.
Oh my God.
American history. And they now are in their
Crazy. They
family.
both
The
mean
only
the
sacred
same
obligation we
Just
have
say
as a
fucking
country is to
bullshit.
care
Yes.
for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war
I think this
against
is another
Ukraine,
W for
which
Biden,
is now
potentially.
in its third year.
Russia?
Former
Is,
President
yeah.
Trump,
I was just gonna say it
Russian
wouldn't happen to
President
him.
Vladimir
Yeah.
Putin says he'll only
W
end
for Trump.
this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all,
Good question.
our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him.
I
They
can't
think he's
stand
the
it.
worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him,
It's insane.
that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that
They
straight.
fucking hate
And
him.
they like me more than just about
like
any
him.
of them.
Yeah.
And that's based on
They probably
every
love him
single
because
bit
Trump
of
just goes, do what you
information.
want.
As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by
Yep.
Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than
Yeah.
people know. You know, they talk
A
about
lot of
numbers. You
people
can
are
double
dead.
those numbers,
700
maybe triple
million.
those
I
numbers.
don't see this as a
He
winning
did
argument
nothing
for
to stop
Trump.
it.
Just
In
to
fact, I
say
think
it
he
wouldn't have
encouraged
happened.
Russia from going in. I tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Tripping.
That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost
What are they-
13 beautiful soldiers,
somebody walked
and
through camera.
38 soldiers
Joe,
were
they're picking
obliterated.
up Biden
And by the
right
way,
now.
we left people behind too. We left
They're picking
American
up Biden
citizens
right now.
behind. When Putin saw that, he said, "You know what? I think we're going to go
Somebody
in
gotta
and
pick him up
maybe
again."
take my." This was his dream.
He's just
I talked to
looking
him
down.
about
He
his
likes to
dream.
sleep,
The
man.
difference is he
It does look
never
like
would have
he's asleep.
invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded
This guy had 3
in
brain
a million
surgeries,
years by Hamas.
and his doctor
You know
said
why?
he'll never recover.
Because Iran was broke
That's
with
insane,
me.
and
I
he's
wouldn't
our
let
president.
anybody do business with them. They ran out
He's
of
a
money.
brain
They were
dead.
broke.
We're
They
looking
had no
at a
money
brain
for
dead
Hamas.
person.
They had no money for anything. No money for
insane.
terror.
Look at
That's
that
why you had
skeleton.
no terror at all during my
His skin.
administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a
There you go.
situation where,
There
let's
you go,
take the last
Joe.
point first.
Hit him with the malarkey.
Iran attacked American troops,
True.
caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing.
That's
When the
true.
attack took place. Number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that era.
Afghanistan, yeah.
Number three, we found ourselves in a
think it's a
situation
win.
where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want, and that's exactly what Trump did.
Whoa.
To Putin encouraged him, do whatever you want, and he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in.
He's got it
He was going
back.
to take Kyiv in 5 days. Remember, because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish.
That is what Trump said.
Kyiv, and he in fact didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done, and they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never
for-
said that.
for
Yeah,
1 minute,
that
I
was
just
pretty
want to
good.
go
That
back
was
to my
pretty good.
original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the
No, they're
territory
not
in Ukraine?
acceptable. No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started.
But,
if we had a
he
leader
said
in
but.
this war, he led everybody along.
He's
He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this
I think
country and
Biden
walks
has a
away
huge
with $60
opportunity
billion.
to counter
He's
here
the greatest salesman
because
ever.
we give
And
a
I'm not
lower
knocking
percentage
him,
of
I'm not
our
knocking
GDP
anything.
to
I'm only saying
Ukraine than any
the
European
money
country.
that we're spending
Like
in
we're
this
not giving
war,
them that much money
and
in
we
the grand
shouldn't be
scheme
But this
of
spending.
things.
works.
It should have never
This works.
happened.
People hate it.
I will have
I don't think
that
people
war
hate it.
Getting
settled
I don't
between
like
Putin
it.
and Zelensky
I need a
as
dollar.
president-elect before
I
I take
support
office on
Ukraine
January
independence
20th. I'll have that
personally.
war
What
settled.
war?
People being
Yeah, see, a lot
killed
of people feel
so
like I do.
needlessly, so stupidly,
It works.
and
It's
I will
definitely
get
not
it
in my
settled,
country.
and I'll get it settled
fucking
fast
works.
before I take office.
You
President
know,
Biden, you have a minute.
This is a
the
chance.
fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people.
True.
And he has made one thing clear.
Take a second
He
for
wants
one
to
second.
reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire.
I mean, I don't.
Not just a piece. He wants all
Putin is
of
the most
Ukraine.
dangerous man
That's
in
what
the
he
world
wants.
to me.
And then
I
you
mean,
think he'll
More
stop
than
there?
Kim Jong-un?
You think he'll stop when
Easily.
if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland?
Exactly.
What do you think
He's just going to keep
What do you think
going
happens
if
to
we
those
let him
NATO
take
countries?
Ukraine.
And so if you want a war,
Facts.
you ought
That's
to
just true.
find
It's
out what he's going to
undeniable.
do.
That's just
Because
fucking
if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point.
Yeah, we're not
And
giving them
and
money most of
NATO
the time.
allies
We're giving them
produce
weapons.
That's
as
not a
much
selling point.
It is a-
from
I think it's a
Ukraine
selling
as
point.
we
It's
have.
money.
That's why we're strong.
It's money.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East.
You see
In
that?
You
October,
look strong
Hamas
there.
They shoot
attacked
and they do the
Israel,
price tally.
killing more than 1,000
it's like a
people and taking
$4,000
hundreds
in
of
2
hostages.
seconds.
Among those held and
And those are
thought to
dummy
still be
rounds?
alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and
This
created
is
a
where both of them
humanitarian
suck.
crisis
Nobody-
in Gaza.
This is-
President Biden
This is
Nobody
going to
enjoys
be
it.
put forward
interesting,
a
dude.
They
proposal
both
to
are
resolve
absolutely
this
terrible.
conflict. But so far, Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its
He looks
military
so
offensive in
stressed.
Gaza. So, what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones.
That's
standing
true.
up.
Hamas
They're
is
still
the only
pushing
one that wants
hard
it to continue.
to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and
That's
it's
true. Not a
stopped.
single
We
Israeli
saved
died
Israel. We
in
are
an
the
attack
biggest
of like
producer
300 drones or
of support
something they
for
sent to
of
Israel.
anyone in the world. And so they're 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for what
Trump's taking a
regions
dip
and
in the
weapons
odds in the
among
market right now.
population centers.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He was at 67. He was
Just
at
going back
60.
to Ukraine for 1 second.
Just a slight dip.
We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together
See, I told
have
you he was just
spent
gonna answer whatever he
100
wants.
billion or maybe more than that, less than us.
Let's see.
Why doesn't he call them and say you got to put up your money like I
went back
did
to
with
Ukraine.
NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We
He's
were
not
spending
talking about
almost
Israel at all.
100%
No, that's
of
what
the
I said.
money
He
was,
said
it
he's
was
going back
paid
to-
by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
What the
I've never asked so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. may be a big ocean, but were we ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in
The
fact,
fact is the
you have
CIA controls
continue to
both
go
of these
into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement.
So-
Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the
who's
nuclear war he
CIA?
keeps talking about, go
Nobody.
ahead. Let Putin go
Nobody?
in and control Ukraine and then
Like
move on to Poland and other
Congress?
places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Okay, get back
By
to
the
Israel,
way,
Biden. Get
50
back.
other nations around the world to support
Look at this
Ukraine.
man's face.
You can make it back to
including
Israel.
Japan
Come on,
and
bro.
South Korea,
Please.
because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem
I'd
we
have to see.
is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's
What
right
is
about
Trump
this.
even talking
I said,
about here?
no, I'm not going to support
idea.
NATO if you don't pay. They
He
asked
wanted
me
to
that
leave
question.
NATO.
Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's
Thank you.
bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump,
Biden tried to
I want
talk,
to ask
but
you
the
about
mic was
January
off.
6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few.
Fire.
On January 6th, we were energy independent. On
Fire.
January 6th, we had the lowest
This is
taxes
crazy,
ever.
because
We had the
this is
lowest
what
regulations
matters.
Ever. On January 6th, we were
Fire.
respected all over the world.
But it has nothing to
all
do
over
with the
world,
question.
We were respected.
Bro, it
And
has
then he
everything
comes
It has
in,
nothing to
and
do with
we're
the
now
question.
laughed at. We're
Everything's
like
so
a bunch
wrong,
of stupid
bro.
people.
I think it's a
What
bad look.
happened to the
Him
United
giving-
States'
January 6th
reputation
was a big
under
deal,
this
bro.
It was a
administration
huge
I am
deal.
everybody. You
is
guys are.
horrible.
It was a big deal,
including
bro.
weaponization, which I'm sure at
People
some
I'm the
point we'll be
electoral.
talking
You
about,
guys are the.
where he goes after his
popular.
political opponent because he
Pretty
can't beat him
split.
fair and square.
I mean, the moderator's
You
asking
have
a
80
question.
seconds
This
left.
is
My
not an
question
answer to that
was,
question.
what do you say
Bottom
to
line.
those
That's a
voters
great
who
answer,
believe
actually.
you
What I said was gonna
violated
happen
your
was he's just gonna say what he
constitutional oath
wants.
through
Yeah,
your
it's,
actions
it's
and
honestly
on
pretty
January
cringe
6,
that he's allowed to get
2021,
away with that.
and worry that you'll do it again.
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down.
That's
And
crazy.
it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
This is a real
President
video.
Biden?
This is a real video he's
Who
talking
said,
about.
who said that?
Nancy
He
Pelosi
encouraged
said
them
she
to
took
smoke
accountability
and
for the
number
security
one.
on January 6th.
I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours, 3 hours watching, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America.
He did call
In
them
fact,
patriots.
He says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. You know, they've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out, and now he says if he loses again, such a whiner as he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Dub for Trump.
What they've done to some people that are so innocent,
Yep.
you ought to be ashamed of
Innocent.
yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people.
Insane.
Who that's innocent?
You're the minority on that
when they
one.
ripped
Who are you
down,
talking about that's innocent though?
People who
many
just
other
fucking
cities.
walked
You
in
go to
and-
Minnesota,
I did
Minneapolis.
not think that
What
shit
they've
was
done
cool,
there,
bro.
No.
with the
It's-
fires
people
all
who
over the
walked
city. If I
in,
didn't bring
bro.
in the National Guard, that city would have
Just
been
fucking
destroyed.
protesters,
He
bro.
needs to
When you look
ask
at
him
all of
still
the-
if the election was rigged.
Hold
They
on,
took
let's give
over
me a
big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I
That's
asked
how
them
most
the
people
first
feel.
I
debates
agree.
we had,
That's how
the
most
debates
It was
we
an
had the
attack
first time
on
around.
the Capitol,
I said,
on our
"You
very
denounce the Proud
That's how
Boys."
most
existence
He
people
as
said,
a
"No, I'm
country.
coming to stand by."
Dude,
The idea
you
is
guys are
refusing
wild.
to
In actual
we
polls, that's how
denounce
most
these
people
guys.
feel.
You guys are
We
wild.
denounce the people we're talking about now. We denounce the people
Usually
who
let's
attacked
just
that.
go.
You know, it's the
Capitol.
first time they ever
What are you gonna
delayed
do?
the certification of the election.
I'm
in the
going to
United
give you
States.
a
fire.
First
That means
time
that
ever
Trump
in
for
history
a
that they had to
couple
delay
of
it.
Could do something, bro.
After
They
a
had to
jury
delay it
interview
because-
of 34
They had to
felonies
delay
last
it
month,
because
you
it doesn't
were
give
you hope,
reelected,
that doesn't
you
give
would,
you
quote,
fire in your
have every
heart.
right to go
It
after,
would
unquote,
if
your
Trump
political
wasn't
opponents.
saying the
You just
election
talked
was
about
rigged.
Members of the select committee.
I don't
on
think
January
that's a
6th
winning
going to
point.
jail.
The election
Your
was
main
rigged.
political opponent is standing on stage with you
67% of
tonight.
Americans
Can you
agree
clarify
with that.
exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I
That
said
is not
my
true, by the way.
retribution is going to be success. We're going to make
true.
this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be
High-level
convicted
felon.
probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the
This is a
statute of
comeback everyone
limitations
expected.
lapse on
Hey,
the
your
most
son's a
important
felon
things.
too. Blah, blah.
But he could be a convicted
son's not
felon as soon as he
president,
gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. And
I'd
I
like
have
to see
said
how he
that-
refutes that.
that's
If he just
quid pro
writes it off,
quo.
I think it's a bad look.
that we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal.
Yep.
This man, you're lucky. You're lucky.
Yep.
I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was
I did
rigged and
nothing
disgusting.
wrong.
I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have
Rigged and
said, I'm
disgusting
coming right to you, sir.
system.
You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean,
That's a
what
get.
are we talking
That's
about?
a get.
You
Trump
have a
did that
moral
shit.
finality.
Proven in court.
That's a
Give you a minute,
W.
sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star. Number
Yes,
one.
you did.
Number
It's
two,
proven.
that was a case that was
What
started
does that mean?
and
Who
moved.
cares?
They moved a high-ranking official
wanna
of
have sex with a
DOJ
porn
into
star.
the Manhattan DA's
But he
office
lied
to
about
start
it, though.
that
He
case.
lied about it.
That case is going to be appealed and
He
won.
lied about it.
We had a very
To help his
terrible
campaign.
judge, a horrible judge, Democrat, The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and
This
the
is
criminal.
actually America,
He basically
bro.
went after his political
They're talking about
opponent
paying off
because he
fucking
thought it was
porn
gonna
stars,
damage
bro,
me. But
because
when
of
the
Donald
public
Trump.
found out
Should
about
this
these
really be
cases,
happening?
'cause they
I don't
understand
think
it
so.
better than he does. He has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows
Oh,
it's
we
a
forgot to look at
scam,
the bets
and it's a
on what
guy
they would
that's
say.
after his political opponent because he can't
I would've
win
played
fair
some.
and square.
Thank you,
Okay.
President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and
I
his
said
MAGA
you come from my
Republicans
family, I come
are
from the
determined
West,
to
you
destroy
follows after
American
Kendrick.
democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road.
He
coming
needs
out.
to talk about
He's got
the election
a
being
whole
rigged.
range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say?
There's
Nazis
fine
coming
people
out
on
of
both
fields
sides.
carrying
Direct
torches,
quote.
singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas. We're fine people. This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense
They
of
don't
American
build highways.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story's been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency.
It's
His
insane.
presidency, he's without question,
Thank you, Trump.
the worst president, the worst presidency
Thank you.
in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it.
No.
There's nothing to debate.
Fuck
He made
no.
up the Charlottesville story,
Totally.
and you'll see it's debunked all over the place.
No.
Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day,
Debunked
it came
that
out.
This is
it
just
was
Trump
fully
lying. though.
Debunked.
Like that has not
It's
been debunked at all.
Nonsense story.
How
He
do you-
knows that.
I've
and he didn't run
researched
because of
this,
Charlottesville. He
100%.
used that as an
Yes, I
excuse
do.
to run.
You don't know that.
President Biden.
and debunked. It happened.
It
All you have to do is
100%
listen to
happened.
what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought
It's the weirdest
they were
lie
good
to call
people
Trump
coming out
to
of
call
that,
him out on.
that
Like,
forest,
I don't know why
carrying
Trump would do
those
that.
woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that
I
he's
think
talking
that's just
about
like the ego
all
getting
this
to him.
being fabricated. We saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president.
Photographic
Look, there's a
evidence.
reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
That's the first commercial break so far. They're getting injected with. They're shooting Jello up right now, dude.
Should be
Let's review the transcripts.
We shouldn't have to debate this fucking terribleness.
So what's the stock market saying?
Let's see.
What
I
do
was
the
off
betting
it for a
markets
little
say?
It was like 70-30, now it's back to 60-40.
Now is that what?
60-40 in favor
Trump,
of Trump.
still Trump.
60-40.
60-40.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What did it start at?
It started at like 49 to 43, something like that. They were both like, barely clear
Damn,
50.
it was even, and now it's like a clear Trump
Yep.
ahead. I mean, I get it.
It wasn't even. Trump was still ahead, but not by as much as he is
Joe
now.
Biden does not look good.
Yeah, Joe Biden looks weak. Gavin Newsom is gaining though. He's a 10% chance.
Imagine the world where they can go to the convention.
I think
Joe
they
Biden
could.
Steps down.
If he said no, I don't think I'm fit for this. I don't know. I don't think it could happen. There's no precedent for it ever happening. But
He would never do that.
I mean,
And if he would do that, why didn't he do it 8 years ago?
He wouldn't do that. I think.
But they could make him do it somehow.
I think it's because the people around him are actually starting to be like, "Holy fuck, this dickhead might lose." Like, I think they were in denial about it.
They
for
couldn't
so
even
long.
believe he fucking won.
Yes, exactly. He's the
Because
same.
he rigged it.
I don't think that's true.
Totally, bro. How
They
the
don't,
fuck
like,
is he
talking
the
about
most
Biden?
popular president in America? It doesn't make no
I
sense.
went there.
Biden?
I voted for him.
That doesn't mean
Biden?
shit.
Dude,
People didn't like
it's
Trump.
an anti-Trump
It was
vote.
honestly, I
It's
think
like-
the biggest thing was
it's a we
Corona.
don't
Like
want
Trump didn't give a fuck about Corona.
And it was anti-Trump, bro. It's not we love Biden. It was
Exactly.
We cannot have Trump, and we got fucking cornered into having Biden on this goddamn.
Yeah, the only reason I think Biden won
That's how
was
he won.
because people weren't happy with Trump.
Yeah.
But people aren't happy with Biden, so
But imagine, how crazy. Because I think people around him are actually starting to be like, we can't.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know,
he
dude.
might not win it.
this doesn't look great for him.
Doesn't look great. And his actual policy-wise, not great. People
Yeah.
feel fucked. It's tough. Like,
If the election is today, Trump wins, no question.
I don't know.
Things can happen though. You know, I don't want to say for
And
sure,
like,
but
if he were to step down though, I don't know like that the replacement would win immediately. I don't know.
I mean, it would have to be like Gavin Newsom or
I don't
Kamala
know
Harris,
if he win,
right?
bro,
Like,
because you can just shit on California. Like there's just endless reasons to be like, look what he's fucking done. Like
that's true.
he's fucked up so much stuff. Kalen's here. Biden looks old, but anyone with a brain cell can tell Trump is just lying through his teeth.
I agree.
Red
That is
tape.
because
Red
Trump's
tape.
answers haven't addressed the questions like maybe once or twice throughout the whole
Yeah.
time.
They asked
Especially
him-
the Israel one, dude. Like and January 6th as well. He just completely dodged the question, didn't bring it up at all, and it's kind of cringe he's allowed to do that, to be honest.
He did bring it up.
Yeah. They literally he goes, I'll see about that, and then he goes to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Like,
The
Look,
amount of
our
vitriol
troops-
that these
our
people
troops
have, though,
hate this
is
man.
insane.
That was the best one.
Like, this is the first debate I've watched where it's like these two guys literally can't stand each other.
Debate
Like,
needs active fact checking. I would love that.
I know the New York Times has like 30 people
You both
doing live
faced
fact
in your
checking.
first terms, and you'd certainly face again.
Maybe you can
in the
pull that
second
up on
term.
your
President
computer.
Biden, while black
I know the New York Times has a
unemployment
thing where they're
dropped
having
to a
like
record
30
low
people
under
live
your
fact checking
presidency,
shit.
Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times
I
the
thought
rate
maybe it's
of
not
white
only
Americans.
if you pay for it or something. I don't know.
What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there are more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate corporations.
This is a bad one. This is a bad one.
Keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find
He's
that
stuttering,
There's
man.
nothing
the
here for him too.
impact of
He doesn't have anything.
the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs, or cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so
low
far,
job
and I'm not
stats
letting
are
up, and they
bullshit.
know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that.
Yeah.
And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all of the other, all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs. And you haven't
They're
seen
taking
it yet,
black
but
jobs.
you're gonna
That's
see
crazy.
Something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you.
Especially when you're talking about migrants.
There was no inflation.
That's wild.
When I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy.
Where's your hat?
That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in involved communities, including minority communities.
PPP loans.
We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They've tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing equity and making sure people are shot to make it.
He's old.
There's a lot going on. But
The
inflation,
markets.
he caused
Markets don't lie. He's had a bad
tremendous
performance.
malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis.
It's just his stutter, bro.
2023
It's
was
just
the
the stutter.
hottest year in recorded history in
Cope.
communities
And the
across
Alzheimer's.
the country.
just
Are
the stutter,
confronting
man.
the
Cope, cope.
devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires,
Let's see what the
stronger
fuck.
hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action
Are we
as
still on
president
YouTube?
to
We
slow
still
the
have
climate
Yeah,
Let's
crisis?
go,
Let me
dude.
just go back to
We're
what he
still
said
out here,
about
boy.
the police. How close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening.
He was that
But
tough
when
on
they see what
crime
I
guy.
did for criminal
You can't
justice
lie about that.
reform and for the
But again, avoiding the question.
black
Yeah,
colleges
the
and
question was about
universities
climate,
where
by
I
the way.
funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country. Opportunity zones, and the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But when do you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet? It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left,
Get
President
Trump
Trump.
off
Will
the
you
stage.
take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it.
We had clean water. Oh
We
my
had the best
God!
numbers
What?
ever, and we were using all forms
This is
of
a
energy,
yikes.
all forms,
Everybody
everything.
from Michigan
And
looking
yet,
around.
during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the
My
stage.
I don't know where the hell he's been.
He's so
The
good.
idea
This guy is so
maybe
funny,
it's
man.
not true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We found
My
ourselves,
top
by the
climate
way,
people got
black
before it right
colleges.
went up.
I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing in the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do
Strong
a damn
point.
thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States.
Right.
And
He's-
I ended
I mean-
it because I didn't want to waste that
Biden
money
gives
because
up
they
the vibe
treated
of
us
someone who's
horribly.
fully
We were the only
conscious,
ones who was
trapped in a
costing us
vegetable
money.
body.
Nobody else was paying into
Who
it.
said that?
And it was
I honestly do think part of it is
Everything
because of
that
his
you said
stutter.
just
Like,
now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say
Kick
before
Kalen
insulin.
right now.
I'm the one that got the insulin down
fucking
for the
crazy,
seniors.
stupid.
I took care of
You
the
don't think that
seniors.
it has anything
What
to do
he's
with his
doing is
stutter, though?
destroying
Actually
all of our
joking.
medical programs because the migrants coming
joking.
in, they want everybody. And look, I have the
Because
biggest
the
heart on
points
the
he's
stage, I
making are
guarantee
valid
that.
points.
And I want to
I
take
don't
care of
care.
people. But we're destroying our
gonna
country.
move the ball,
They're
it's
taking over our
fucking fine
schools,
shit.
our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying
Nico, yeah.
Social Security,
Nico, you have
Medicare, and
Yeah,
Medicaid.
yeah, I got you.
My boy.
Totally.
I'm just gonna open this bag.
The idea is that
Yes, sir.
we, in fact, we were.
I
the
need
only
some
ones
to
of
be able to watch
consequence.
this.
We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able, the United States can't get its under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many
Cutting them
older
off is
Americans,
honestly
Social
great.
Security provides
And he
a
knows
critical
when he's cut
lifeline.
off too, because the light
President
goes
Biden,
off.
if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Hey,
Right now,
W.
everybody making under $170,000
Why is
pays
Mount
6%
open like that? Who knows?
of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%.
There should be a
1%.
no cap on
So
Social
no one
Security.
after-
I don't see why there's a
not
cap.
raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000.
That just straight up
after
benefits
that
people who
begin
make
to
a lot of
the
money.
wealthy
Like, it makes
begin
no
to pay their
sense.
fair share.
This
by
is where
increasing from
Trump wins the
1%
debate
beyond
by saying
to be
he's
able
gonna
to
end
guarantee
Social
the program
Security.
for life.
That's a
So you still
crazy
have
That's
2
take.
seconds
insane
left. Are there
take.
any other measures that you think that would be
Insanity.
able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security.
Yeah, that is not
He's going
popular
to cut
at
Social
all,
Security
bro.
and Medicare, both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House
We
Republican
want to talk about
caucus,
spending. That's where most of the spending
is in
is.
fact wants
So
to
when
cut it
Trump
as
says he
well.
wants to cut spending, what's he
idea
talking about?
We don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because of a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they in fact are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards the tuition. It's you just don't know what he's talking about.
We're streaming
Thank
on
you,
Twitter.
President Biden.
That's
President
sick.
Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never
That's
seen
actually
he
the
could look you in the
craziest
face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country and they're putting them onto Social Security, they're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid, they're putting them in our hospitals, they're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing.
It's a bad look.
It's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers are losers, he said he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one.
Real
Number
America.
two,
These guys
the
are fake
idea
America.
that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people.
Nope.
I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border, that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world.
Yup.
The finest in the history of the world.
Yup.
No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who was the worst president in American history.
Obama.
One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase
Biden
the
did increase
availability
the tax
of
credit.
women and men or single parents to be able to go
That's
back to work.
verifiable.
And we should encourage businesses to have
Thank you, President
child care
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise the tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history.
Largest deficit ever was under Trump.
You have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China.
No, dude, that's a real measurable thing.
Since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I impose on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and there was more to come. But he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
Talking about for
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had
Again, he
the
didn't
2.5,
address
almost
the
3
question,
years
by the
of
way.
like nobody's ever had before, any country.
And they had
in
to
everywhere.
re-ask it to him.
And then we had to get tough, and it was the drugs pouring across the border were.
Tell
it
Nicky to
started
zero
to
out that
increase.
keep
We
bar
got
for
great
Biden.
equipment. We bought a certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen. The way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers.
done.
Have you seen the numbers now?
The numbers.
It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low
Pretty
because
good.
the gotaways. They don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women
Yeah, we were listening
coming
to it.
across our border. The worst thing
I
I've ever
did
seen.
not have sex with the
At
porn
numbers that
star.
nobody's
That
ever
was
seen
crazy.
under him because the border's so
This is
bad.
America. Like,
The
what?
number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden.
I want the drugs.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down
Good night,
for a while.
everybody.
Good night.
And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it cost a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more being able to detect drugs, more
Tell Ezra to
numbers
get
of
off Clash of Clans and
agents,
watch
more
this
numbers
shit.
of
It's
all
Tinder.
the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he
Who said
called
that?
his
Garrett.
Republican
I
colleagues and
just
said, don't
matched
do
with
it.
Sam.
It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those
Samuel.
machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl.
Trump is gonna
And
fucking
Mexico
win,
is working
bro.
with us to make sure
gonna
we
win.
don't have the
I'm
technology
voting
to
for
be
him.
able to put it together.
So will
That's
you.
what we have to do. We
I
need
will
those
not be voting
machines.
for Donald Trump.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling
He
to
must
get the
have
food they
gold
eat.
because he's been
Well,
swiping
this
for the
because this
past
does
30
pertain.
minutes.
He ended remain in
I got
Mexico.
platinum, good.
He ended catch and release.
Take the
I
platinum,
meant catch and
baby.
release in Mexico, not
Unlimited
catch and
likes.
release here.
Pop up
We had
first.
so many things that we
Don't
had
tell
done,
my girlfriend.
hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6
Don't tell
billion
my
for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, the Wall Street Journal reporter.
I'm boosted
I
right
think
now,
a good
bro.
guy.
Boosted.
And
You guys
he's
want to know
over
more
there
about my
because Putin
Tinder
is
swipes
laughing
than
at
this
this guy,
shit?
probably asking for
This
billions
shit's
of
lame.
dollars for the reporter. I will have him out.
Let's go. We
very
got
quickly.
Giselle.
As soon
Is
as I
she
take
trans?
I don't think I've got a
Before I
Tinder
take
match in
office,
like
I said
4
by
months.
literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that
Jesus.
reporter out.
Just match
He
with
should
a
have had him out a
man.
long time ago. But
Dude,
Putin's
I
probably
wish.
asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time.
I'm going
We had
to
2
right?
cases where we paid
Tomorrow.
$6 billion for 5 people.
They will ban
I got
TikTok.
58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you.
Last 10
President
minutes.
Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns
Fucking sick.
about your
Holy shit.
capability to handle the toughest job in the world? Well,
I'm gonna
into
be
your
86 looking out like I'm
First
30.
of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest.
Hey, if you guys
person
want to know how to
in
do that,
politics. I was the second youngest
pay me
person
$5,000.
ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the
I'll
oldest.
tell you.
This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it
We
because he
invented the
was
computer
sending
chips,
people
bro.
to find the cheapest jobs overseas.
He did
and then
pass
bring
the
home a
CHIPS
product.
Act.
So I went to
I mean,
South
look at
Korea.
NVIDIA.
I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the
They're
United
like
States.
a $3 trillion
And they're-
company out of nowhere.
Guess what? Those
That's pretty
fabs
crazy,
they call them
NVIDIA?
to build these chips. Those fabs
Trump
pay
is
over
taller and built
$100,000.
better, so he's
You don't
got
need
my
a college
vote.
degree for them. And there's billions, about
That's
$40
Gary
billion
Howard.
already being invested
That's how I
in
base
being built
my
right now
Tinder
in
matches
the United
on.
States, creating
Is it
significant
But
jobs.
NVIDIA
for
was higher
Americans
under
from all
Biden,
over the
though.
world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name
Kinda
me
true.
a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America. for all our problems and all our
Fact.
opportunities.
Maybe
We're the
Undeniable.
most progressive country in the world in getting things done.
Finland.
We're the strongest country
Maybe
in
they'd
the
be
world.
like, we're good.
We're a country in the world who keeps our
Maybe a
word,
couple other
and
countries.
everybody trusts us. All of our allies and our those who he cuddles up to, from Kim Jong Un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know.
Totally.
We made it public.
I
He
know
took
that.
none. I'd like to see him take one, just
I'd like
one.
to see him
a
take
real
one.
easy one. Like go through
Easy
the
one.
first 5 questions. He couldn't do it.
5 questions.
But I took 2 cognitive tests.
2.
I took physical exams every year.
2.
And you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood,
Totally.
that I'm in very good health. I just won
Absolutely.
2 club championships, not even senior.
Let's
2
go.
regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart,
You have to
and you
be
have to be
smart.
able to hit the ball a long way.
He's fucking
And I
great.
did. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards.
He can't hit a ball.
I think I'm in very good shape.
We
I
need
feel
a
that
video
I'm
about
as
it to
in good
prove
shape
this.
as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm
Totally.
probably a little bit lighter.
Totally.
But
You
I'm
think he
in
can do it?
as good
50
a shape
yards?
as I was
No, but I can't
years
stand.
ago. I feel very
He
good. I
can't
feel
do
the
it. He
same.
fell off a
Can't
bike.
But I
fucking
took,
walk
I
on
was
the
willing to
He fell
take
off a
the
bike,
cognitive
bro.
test. And
He
you know
can't
what? If I
swing a
didn't do
golf
well, I
club.
aced them.
But
Dr.
then
Ronnie
if
Jackson,
you can't
who's
swing a golf club,
a
you
great
can't
guy
play
when he was White House doctor. And then I took
Sounds
another
like a good
similar
rule.
one.
So who's more
And both-
cognitive?
one of them said they'd never
ready
seen
for
anybody
president?
ace them.
Thank you.
Probably
President
Trump.
Biden?
You can see
Yeah,
he is
I would
6'5"
agree, Trump.
and only 225 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is. and
I mean, yeah, we're
what
basically
he is.
picking between
Look, I'd be happy to try to.
early
I
stage
got my
dementia
handicap
versus like
when I was vice
a liar
president,
and
down to a
narcissist.
6.
That's pretty much the
Yeah.
options.
And by the way,
Yeah, like a
I
con
told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag.
who stays at his own hotels
Trump
whenever
is
he
logging
travels.
him right
He's a
now.
6
You know
handicap,
that they stayed
a
at
hole.
Trump hotels
I
when
was
they
an
would travel a
8
lot of the time?
Yeah.
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 Every
I
other
had-
president put their
I've seen
shit
this
in a
one,
blind
and
trust.
You
Okay,
know,
let's
you know,
not act like it.
Like he literally will just stay at his own hotel, pay with government money.
Specific
Like
concern
Dude, he made
that
Pence
voters
do
have
that.
about you.
it's nuts.
Will you
One time he
pledge
went to Russia
tonight
and the closest hotel
that
was
once
the
all
I'm
legal
sure he made
challenges have been
everyone do it that
exhausted,
was
that
staying
you
with him
will
in the
accept
hotels.
the results of this election, regardless of who wins,
Oh.
and you will
This
say
is a
right
good
now
question.
that political
He'll accept
violence
it.
in any
There's no
form
chance he
is
says that.
unacceptable.
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free,
That's a
and I
real
want
video.
that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again.
Yep.
I'm going to make America great again.
Yup.
We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation.
Yup.
And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so
Yup.
bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him.
Nope.
He will drive us into World War III. And we're
Yup.
closer to World War III
Yup.
than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III.
Disagree.
And he's driving
Yup.
us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these
They're all hanging out.
They don't respect him.
Nope.
They don't fear him.
Nope.
They have nothing going with this
Nope.
gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
Totally.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want.
That's a
That's a
Think
fact.
for Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all.
Yep.
Required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done.
repeat
because we're a
yourself.
powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety as a state. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
A little bit.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election?
Yeah, he didn't
regardless
answer
of
that
who-
at all again.
Just to finish what he said, if I
And he's
might.
the money again.
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people, they're running out of soldiers, they've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old.
This isn't really
all
true,
because
though.
of him and stupid
doing fine.
decisions. Russia would have never
Ukraine?
attacked.
Yeah.
If I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you
Let me check
accept
the
the
map.
results of the election,
I'm pretty sure,
regardless
like,
of who
they're
wins?
not
Yes or no,
sustaining.
please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week. Or we'll have another one of these in a week.
What they should ask him
But
is like,
I
if
will
Biden
absolutely. There's
would you
nothing I'd
accept
rather
that?
do. It would be much easier for me to do that than
Okay, so look.
running again. I wasn't really going to run
This is a map
until I
as
saw
of
the
June
horrible
18th.
job he did.
What is this?
He's destroying our
this
country.
is Ukraine.
I would be
The
very
red part is
happy
what
to be
Russia
someplace
taken.
else in a
The blue
nice
part is
location someplace.
Russia took
And again,
Ukraine has
no
regained.
indictments, no political
So they're
opponent stuff,
not,
because
like,
it's the only way he
chill.
thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see.
Like-
You're a whiner. When you lost
If
the
those
first
people
time,
want their
You're a
independence,
you continued
if
to
those people
appeal
want their
to the
independence
courts all
from
across the
Russia,
country.
they have a
Not
right
one
to fight for
single
that.
court in America
In my
said
opinion.
any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepted anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN President
Are we not
Kinda
done?
got him.
live.
They have to be.
30 more minutes, 30 more. Maybe.
Oh, it's only 90
Oh.
minutes. They started at 90.
We'll see.
They gotta have like maybe one more question. But
Overall, still not the best performance from Joe, but I mean it's rough on both sides. What can I say?
no, but I think Trump's coming out better.
Yeah,
For
most
sure.
definitely, most
Without
definitely. He looks more confident. He looks more able to do the job.
To fucking say sentences.
Yeah, it's undeniable.
It's crazy. He literally will sit there and just go, anything bad, he just goes, it would never happen with me.
Dude, it's crazy because if it wasn't Joe Biden and it was someone that could competently like refute like Trump's arguments and say exactly how he lied and how it's provable, then. But Biden's not that guy. He's just not that guy. That's what this debate has shown.
It
Like,
should have been
he's not the
Yang.
guy that's able to expose Donald Trump.
It should have been Yang, okay? There, I said it.
Dude, he didn't even run this time, man.
Hell no, of course not.
He's a book salesman.
Overall, this is really sad. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy. But
Is what
the
it
guy
is.
would have been sick. Can you imagine if we all got extra $1,000?
That would be sick, dude. It might happen one day. Who knows?
I think it's kind of has to happen at some point.
If the AI shit takes off,
Enough
like,
jobs go away, bro.
Bro, if the government just buys a shit ton of robots and like they just give that money back to us whenever the robots do the job, like
It's gonna get to a
that would
point
snap.
where it's just gonna be rich people and then poor people delivering shit to them. Like, that's the world we're gonna live in. You're either rich or you're poor and you're just driving, you're delivering shit
Yeah, that's no bueno.
to the rich people or servicing them.
Yeah.
That's the world we're gonna live in, dude. Unless we go viral tonight. Az, you gotta do something crazy.
Do something stupid.
You gotta go viral, dude.
I mean, not eat for 24 hours.
And just sit right there.
Dude, we gotta beat Elden Ring.
You gotta be Elden Ring.
Yeah. I own the game, bro. We could play.
Elden Ring?
That's a stream. That's a good stream.
I just would. I don't have the patience to play Elden. I'd rather do Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Ooh, okay.
Just for like jokes. We try to find like a short one. We try to find like a dungeon master that's chill. And then we just drink and we just fucking
Send it.
roll dice and
Those big ass dice. 36 sided? Something like that.
is that such a thing? 36-sided dice?
That might be cap. I might have made that up. Let's find out.
36-sided dice. Cannot be. 60?
Yeah, that's the one.
This
That's
one?
the one. The red one.
That's crazy, dude.
We're back. I honestly
It is now
can't
time for
believe
the
we didn't get
candidates to deliver
copyright
their
strike.
closing
Shout out to
statement
CNN.
As
Closing
predetermined
statements.
by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies.
Okay.
Well, guess what? We got it.
Took him a while, but he got there.
$35
That was rough.
instead of
That was rough.
$400.
That was rough.
No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to
What
pay
is he
the
talking
exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, where it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits that people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden.
Holy shit.
Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Holy God.
What?
It's over.
Let's go to breaking
Look at him,
points.
he's frozen. He's frozen.
He's moving.
And they're probably about to cut this feed. Yeah, the sound's off. Yep.
That was so awkward, dude. What the fuck was that, man?
Holy shit. Well,
This was overall a massive debacle
Massive
for all
bummer
parties involved.
for the future,
But Biden got the worst out of it.
yeah, he got fucked way
By
more.
far. By far, it was rough.
Yeah, it was not a great look.
For the country
for
as a whole.
Biden, for the country, for the world. It was no good.
Now, at this point, I honestly hope that these
I'm
are.
gonna write in Ezra.
I honestly hope
Real
these
vote.
guys aren't the ones that are actually in control.
I
Like,
hope there's a secret cabal.
I actually hope so. It's someone. It has to be someone more competent than them.
Overall, though, bad for Biden. Trump came out on top.
Yep.
We lose. The people lose.
The people lost. Will Joe Biden be? Bless you.
Thank you.
Will Joe Biden be replaced? I don't know.
That'd be nuts.
That would be nuts.
We're doing another stream if that happens.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna cover that if that were to occur. But
All right. Shout out Twitter. I didn't know we were streaming on there, but we were streaming on Twitter as well the whole
That's
time.
crazy.
clean.
On X. Trump called Twitter. He didn't call it X.
No.
He called it Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I think the most clipped one is gonna be the porn star thing.
What do you give?
And he kind of got.
What do you give Joe Biden out of 10?
I'd give him a 4.
Three.
And what would you?
Maybe
4 and
3.
3?
4, yeah.
What would you give Trump?
Like a 2.
A 2? What do you give Trump?
If I was just looking at the facts, but like in terms of his performance, he still won.
Trump's a
I'm
10.
not saying he didn't win,
What'd you
but
say? S?
Trump's a 10.
A 10? I would say.
Trump definitely won the
I
debate.
would probably say like 4 for Biden, and I would say like 7 for Trump.
That's fair.
Because he just.
He looked more
He
competent.
just delivers shit better.
Yeah,
And people just eat it up. It doesn't matter what he says.
people eat it up.
Doesn't
I think that
fucking matter
yeah,
what
it's
he
looking tough for Biden. I think that the smartest thing would be to replace him somehow, if they
Yeah,
can finesse that.
I don't know who they replace him with.
Gavin Newsom or fucking.
Kamala.
I mean, somebody.
It would be fucked, man. It would be fucked. But we're ending the stream. Everybody's fucked. We're going to bed.
Good night.